I went to high school in a place called Hollywood, Florida. My high school was Hollywood Hills High. It's a very unique community, very diverse. The sort of the core of the community, in a sense, was a Jewish community, and the other core of that community was the Seminole Reservation. Even before that, because I have some Native American ancestry somewhere down the line, I've had a sort of I was sort of connected and intrigued with Native American issues, indigenous peoples issues. And the connection became greater growing up in this environment with where the Seminole Reservation was so strong, and the Seminole sort of the culture was so strong, and we were all intermingled together. So I do have a connection to these populations, but it wasn't until I really studied more that I became deeply appreciative of the original inhabitants of this particular land, how much we've borrowed from the native people, from the indigenous people. Um, the indigenous people are quintessential to the way we live our lives. We won the Revolutionary War because of Native American battle tactics. Before, in the first war of this country, the Revolutionary War, it was these patriots mimicking Native American battle, ducking, hiding, sniping, rather than standing in straight lines, fighting each other. That's just one thing, the very birth of the country. But of course, um, the settlers, right? The colonizers, they survived. Native Americans literally saved a lot of these people, literally saved their lives. They were starving on the beaches and in these colonies. And Native Americans showed them where to plant, how to plant, what foods to grow, what things were poison, etc., through trade. But not just that, our federal system, a balance of power between a centralized space and a more decentralized state space, like states and a federal central government sharing power. We adopted these things from Native Americans. Still today, our the majority of our diet comes from corn. Tallahassee, Miami, these are Alachua. These are Native American terms. This was their land. And for that, as an American patriot myself, I owe it a depth of gratitude. My integrity as a patriot, my identity as an American patriot, compels me to appreciate Native American contributions, but understand that history, understand the brutality of it, the heartbreaking story of the indigenous people in this country. Um, it it is perhaps one of the most compelling and haunting stories in American history. The decimation of the original people from millions and populations that span these lands to 2% of the population today, and a group that, with such pride, beauty, and dignity, has now been reduced to a group that is a health disparity population that across the board, almost in every case, has worse behavioral health outcomes than other ethnic and racial groups. And it becomes common sense at this point. So those who are poor, those who are more isolated, those who have less resources, and they're Native American, they're going to have far more risk factors and harsher consequences because of exposure to risk. And women, of course, and youth. So, some of the major things discussed in this module are going to be those behavioral health issues. The big ones being alcohol misuse or alcohol abuse and suicide, especially among the youth. Those are some of the major issues, but you can't discuss these without the context of knowing what imperialism is. What was the Columbian exchange? Not an exchange of goods, ideas, respect, and love, but an exchange of diseases, an exchange of power, an exchange of cultural way of life that would change the world as we knew it. You have to understand that Native Americans still to this day, many of them live on reservations. I mean, this is almost unthinkable. They still live on these lands that are designated. Um, you can it's almost understandable given the historical trauma of warfare, genocide, removal of land, and all sorts of unthinkable brutalities these people have survived and suffered through. You can understand some of the health disparities. But we cannot discuss these disparities. We cannot discuss these behavioral health issues without fully appreciating that historical context, fully appreciating the historical trauma, and also fully appreciating the tremendous amount of heroism and resilience that has allowed these people to still be around today and thrive. A lot of indigenous peoples were extinct, exterminated. They did not survive warfare. They did not survive manifest destiny, imperialism, colonialism, and warfare, and centuries of disease and chemical warfare and sickness. They didn't survive these things. So these communities you see today have are very resilient. They're honorable. They're dignified. They're powerful. They're poetic. They're beautiful, and we have to appreciate that. So these unique populations are critical. We care about these populations in research and practice. Those of us who are in the health field, in the public health field, we care a tremendous amount for populations that are small. We care a lot about Native Americans. We care a lot about Native Americans that exist at these intersections. Native Americans who are women, Native Americans who may be poor, may be isolated, Native Americans who may be different, Native Americans who have different sexual identities and may be two-spirited. We appreciate these populations and we care. Though they are not representative of the mainstream America, we care because we do care about those minority populations because their survival is critical for the public health. It's critical given their contribution to American way of life. It is absolutely critical. So engage with this module. I had a lot of fun building this module, but it was also very heartbreaking. I wept a few times as I relived some of this material. Pardon me for that. But as I relived some of this material, but I want you to go through this very carefully with a great amount of respect, with a great amount of responsibility, and understand who these populations are, and understand that though this is the original victim, the original oppressed group or oppressed minority group were the Native Americans, the original inhabitants of this land who migrated to this land many years ago following a food source. They believed originally from what was called Asia at the time. They followed through there was an ice bridge that connected the land that has since been sunken in the water. But through that ice bridge, they walked all the way down through Canada and then populated this area. They were the first. They loved, they danced, they sung, they taught, they were engineers, they were scientists, they were agricultural and farmers, they were actors and entertainers and just remarkable people. And their legacy is very deserving of our respect. And it is a compelling story, and even more compelling, the folks who want to help, the folks who want to help achieve restorative justice, who want to restore these people to their rightful place among us. And those health workers, behavioral health professionals, the people that are delivering the services in these reservations, are empowering these communities so that they can sustain themselves and develop programs that improve their own health and their own families and their own communities. Those people are the modern day heroes. And those are the people that are on the right side of history. Again, this is my favorite by far. It's two of my favorite topics. Native Americans, indigenous populations, and women.